What is good, everybody? Quancredible here. I will say I want to apologize in the very beginning of this video if this one's a little bit off or if it's a little weird. I have a headache today, so I'm not quite feeling myself, but we're still going to get through the review regardless. In the chapter 58, it really had like three major parts to it, so I'm definitely going to break down all of those and I got some predictions. So in the very beginning of the chapter, we have Cheon kind of like voicing his doubts about Percival and Lancelot, like saying, do we really need these Knights of Apocalypse? I'm assuming that he's probably one of those people that believes that they can handle the threat of like Arthur and like Camelot all on their own. So I'm assuming like he doesn't really feel like that they need to work with them all like that. To which we do get Tristan attempting to reaffirm him. We even get this little interesting part where Tristan says that like Lancelot has more power and more experience than himself. So that's kind of interesting there. Like I wonder, does that mean that like maybe Lancelot is stronger than Tristan? But I mean, he could have just been trying to gas him up. So we don't really know on that one. And then we also get, at the end of this, Cheon leaving to go off and do his own thing. Now, one thing I want to talk about this exact part before moving on is I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this, and in these panels where they're like talking to Cheon and all about that, you see this girl in the background. I'm gonna put an arrow on her, but you see this girl. She's the only character who's really like progressing through the scene in such a way that it kind of draws attention to it. Like I didn't really notice it at first until like he had brought it up, but she definitely is progressing through the scene. And it actually, if you look at what she's wearing, it kind of looks like this is something you would wear under a suit of armor. So we were talking about how that could how this girl could potentially be the real Gawain, because later on, like I want to say a couple pages after that, Cheon does end up running into what we believe to be Gawain in the suit of armor, and does this like ground attack to like wrap him up. And first of all, Cheon's power seemed kind of dope. He seems like he has some type of like elemental spirits or something like that. It's really neat power. I hope we do get to see more of his abilities, but he does end up capturing what we believe to be Gawain and saying that he doesn't believe in things like prophecies. All he trusts in is in himself and those he believes in. So he definitely seems like one of those like die hard stands for the people that he follows. And then the next part to this chapter would be this very small part about Percival and Percival's group, which is basically them trying to look for which is basically them, also on their search for Gawain. It's really short. They only get like a page, but I did think this part was funny. We had the one knight that had a helm similar to like Hawk. That part was like a nice little touch of fan service. But Percival was asking them like what exactly is golden magic like, and I was kind of confused why they were so shocked about that. Like, are they just surprised that Percival doesn't know what golden magic looks like, or like I'm not really for sure. This part was just really confusing. But one small prediction that I kind of have for this is that I kind of believe that since Percival doesn't know what it's like, he's having a hard time finding it. Obviously, but with Percival's hero type magic, he can use his mini Percivals to go out and find things, meaning that if he actually finds out what this is or what exactly it is he is looking for, if he understands what he's trying to find, his mini Percivals can lead them straight to it. So it's one of those things where I kind of think that maybe in the next chapter they're going to explain it to him or give him a better idea of what it is, and then the mini Percivals may lead them to Gawain and or whatever the suit of armor is, and fighting against Cheon and all of that. And then on to the next part of the chapter, which is my favorite part, with the mystery stranger. So this guy we did see in the previous chapter, holding the cloak. He did end up finding himself with some food. And before I even get super into it, I'm just going to say it. This is Pelgard. Like, this is 110% Pelgard. Like, there is no way it's anybody else. The build, if you look at this dude's build, especially when he's standing next to Peleo, however you say his name, look at his build and you look at like any scene of Pelgard, it legitimately looks like the exact same build. Like, it looks like that armor would fit on this dude like perfectly. It would be a glove. And even his personality seems very similar to Pelgard, like, letting out his like killer intent to try to find someone. Definitely does seem like a very Pelgard-esque thing to do. Granted, we don't know a lot about his character, but what we do know, this does seem like something he would do to try to find someone. But he does end up getting into a fist fight with this Ruby Knight Pelio. Now, I did find it very curious that they decided to bring up his rank. I wonder, like, because as we know, like the Holy Knight ranks kind of are like a rough gauge on how strong they are, but those things got super eclipsed back in Seven Deadly Sins, where like they really didn't even matter. Like, it was to the point to where Diamond Knights, which is the highest tier, were considered weak. So it's like, I wonder, like, did did like the range on them get readjusted now in Fortnite where they are relevant again, or what's kind of going on with that? I'm very curious to see like what's the overall path on that one. But this guy Pelgard, I'm going to refer to him as Pelgard because it freaking is. But Pelgard and Pelio end up getting into a fist fight, and it does appear that Pelio does have a slight upper hand, but not really, because even when he lands hits, his gloves catch on fire, and it even says Blaze, and as we know, Pelgard's magic is Blaze, so it's like, and that's basically, that was the last nail in the coffin for me. 100% has to be Pelgard, and he isn't giving the guy his name. He says only give it to him if he sees him to be worthy, and then that's all we get from there. So that part was definitely my favorite, because if you've been here for any amount of time, or if you just haven't heard me say it, Pelgard is one of my favorite characters in this series just because he's really funny to me. And then for the last part of this chapter, it does focus on Lancelot. Lancelot is just reading hearts, you know. I'm assuming he's trying to see if he could find something that would sound what like Gawain would be saying to himself. And then we get this little girl who approaches him, and they have an interaction, and apparently this is going to be Lancelot's lover. So there's a lot to unpack with this one. There's like a lot here, like so much. When I was reading this was like this was a lot for me. But so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this girl would have to be Guinevere, which, if we remember back to, oh, I forget the exact chapter, but back when he was Sin, when they were like right before they got to go through like Demon Village, he had a dream about this person. Like he's seen this person in his dream. So I mean, you could argue that it's not the same person, but especially after seeing her face, and especially after Lancelot saying I've seen her somewhere before, it's kind of hard to argue at that point. Like, it's definitely the same chick that he's seen in his dream. So, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is Guinevere, because she does say that because she does say that she's his lover. And in the Arthurian lore, or in the legends, one of the most popular stories is, you know, the story of, you know, Guinevere and Lancelot and King Arthur. You know, Guinevere being, you know, King Arthur's bride, but then Guinevere and Lancelot secretly having feelings for each other, and then that kind of causes the whole fall of Camelot. Like, that's like one of the biggest like stories in the Legends period. So no surprise that Nakaba is definitely going to do his own rendition of that here. I have like no doubts in my mind. Now, the only interesting thing here though is, if this is Guinevere, Ironside was sent to go find her. So I wonder, are we going to get potentially Ironside and Pelgard in the same place? Because Pelgard did not want to go find Arthur's bride at all. So the fact that he would end up somewhere that she would be at is kind of interesting. Like, I kind of wonder what's the angle here. But all in all, this chapter was weird. This is easily like one of the weirdest chapters of Four Knights, just period, just because they had like a lot of different things going on, and like it was just strange. And it was just strange. I guess like Cheon's his motivations are a little weird. I hope we get more of that fleshed out, because even if he is overly loyal to the people that he works for, to the point to where he becomes a traitor, that part just seems a little odd to me. So hopefully he has like another reason, or a more in-depth reason, so we can kind of see more into his character on why he's acting the way he is acting. And then everything with the last interaction with Lancelot and Guinevere, her like knowing what he was gonna say just because they're fated lovers, I guess. It's just I need so much more explanation on this. So I really cannot wait for next week to really get like, because I have so many questions. Like, where did she come from? How did she get here? This clearly isn't Gawain. So like was she always in Leonis? Like, it's just there's a ton of questions here with that. And then the stuff with Pelgard, obviously, like what is like, it's like, why is he even there? So all in all, I'd probably give this chapter probably like a 8, no, 7, probably a 7. It had a lot of moving pieces and parts. The plot did get pushed, so I mean there is that, but it wasn't anything like super crazy. So probably a 7 is probably a fair one. I do want to know you guys' thoughts on this chapter. Do you guys believe this to be Pelgard, or do you believe it to be someone else entirely? I would love to hear reasons on why anybody would think it wouldn't be him, just because I'm like 100% for sure that it is. I also want to know you guys' thoughts on what I was talking about earlier, with this girl who is progressing through the background, or who was progressing through the background, her potentially being Gawain, just because there are a little bit of like, there's a little bit of breadcrumbs there. So I would like to know you guys' opinion on that, as well as what you guys think is going to happen next week. That being said, you guys all enjoy the rest of you guys' day. I do apologize that this review was a little bit shorter. Just as I was saying earlier, I have a terrible headache today. But so anyway, you guys all enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all in my next video.